Hello and welcome to today's program. My name is Ethan Chazen. I am a business executive coach and an organizational development trainer. Today's program is dedicated to those of you who are tasked with cultivating, nurturing, growing client relationships. So today's webinar entitled Renew or Retain, Maximize Your Client Lifetime Value. Let's dive right into today's program. So initially what I'd like to do is frame a conversation around what is renew and what is retain. So a lot of times the sales executives that I coach, they use these terms interchangeably, but they're really not. They're phrases or terms that dictate different terms in a relationship you have with a client. So let's try to separate them. The renewal is the customer's act that they exhibit towards you by renewing the contract. Retention is when your customer makes a conscious decision to stay with you and not cancel that relationship. So if you think about it a certain way, the renewal is actually the output or the end result, the last step in client relationship retention. So retention is a much broader and deeper level of conversation than the renewal, which is more of an automatic process. So let's talk about renewals. Renewal is a way the client says, I continue to trust you. It's business as usual. We're going to continue uninterrupted the pre-existing level of service that you're delivering to me. So if you think about things that kind of auto-renew, our insurance policies, our cable, internet, email, anything that's on a subscription basis, which tends to just automatically carry over. And the thing about renewals is you as an organization, if you want to generate them in economically challenging times like we faced with, you can incentivize your clients to increase the renewal process, to increase the likelihood that they're going to stay with you. But again, the renewal is one discrete transactional activity. It's the client saying they're willing to retain you and maintain that relationship. It's the end result of an effective relationship that you've cultivated. Retention is where the client says to you, I'm going to keep you. I like you. I trust you. It's a quote unquote vote of confidence in the relationship being carried forward and you having built a modicum of trust, loyalty in the client based on your successfully serving the relationship. The customer, at a minimum, when they retain you, is saying, I'm not looking to replace you yet. It's an endorsement of the value you bring to that relationship. So that's the key differentiation. And so what I want to transition to now is this notion of superior service as a true unique value proposition. It is a classic differentiator. And now in the time of COVID, more than ever before, we need to cultivate stronger relationships that lead to greater levels of client retention. And we do that through service. So I ask you to think something through that you probably haven't given a lot of thought to, or maybe you've taken for granted when we think about the relationship that we have with our clients. It's, what does relationship even mean? And not so much from your perspective, because we're all selfish creatures. From your client's perspective, what does a relationship mean? It's a bond. It's a connection that's been forged and tested, maybe challenged, but it's a bond that exists, that you've created and cultivated and need to continue maintaining and nurturing. So there are three kinds of client. And when I work with organizations and I work with sales professionals, we go into their client database, we go into their Rolodex of accounts, and we look at who's what in terms of client type of categorization. The first is called the mercenary. The second is called the loyalist. And the third is called the brand ambassador. Excuse me. So let's talk about each of these classical distinctions. The mercenary does not care at all about your or my problems. They don't care about your access to capital, your challenges, recruiting and retaining top talent. They don't care about the cost of your goods. They don't care about any issue pertaining to you. The classic quote is, that sounds like a you problem. The mercenary has absolutely no loyalty to you. They may have done transactional business with you one or maybe a few times, but they'll leave you in a heartbeat. Here's the kicker. Those mercenaries are 80% of your Rolodex. of your client relationship. Sorry, that's just how the research breaks out. Then there's a little bit more relationship trustworthy client. They're typically loyal to you. They're relatively happy with the degree of service you've provided. They can be persuaded to leave you if you do something egregious to jeopardize that relationship. But for the most part, they're happy. They may even refer one or two people to you from time to time. They're loyal. That's about 17, 18% of your customer database. So if you do the math between the mercenaries at 80%, the loyalists at about 17, 18%, that leaves maybe 2 to 3% of your customers who are truly your VIP brand ambassadors. They generate a significant amount of revenue to you directly. They give you new business, which adds new revenue, and they are a tremendous source of new client acquisition through referrals. The referral friend program is ideal for them. They're really loyal with what you do. They buy into your service. They're willing to refer people to you. They go to your website on a Saturday at 3 a.m. and go 13 pages deep in. They read all of your e-newsletters. They are a powerful driving force. Here's my question for you. Here's my question. How do you treat each of these three primary categories of client differently? How do you identify them by categorizing them? And how do you communicate with them based on where they are in the relationship cycle with you? That's pretty much the most powerful rhetorical question I can ask a sales executive or a sales team. It's all about moving customers up the lifetime value chain. And the ultimate goal is to maximize the number of VIP brand ambassadors, or what we call in the trade, apostle clients. So there are 3 steps to earn apostles or cultivate them, grow them. Write the names down of your existing apostles. Think about them. Think about one VIP type of client. What did it take to land them, to nurture the relationship, to retain their business, to move them up from mercenary to loyalist to apostle? What are all the things over time it took to acquire these apostle accounts? So you're going to go in, look at your existing customer database and identify those that are not apostles, loyal customers, twice the number of existing apostles you have, and go through the actions you went through to identify what it took to create an apostle client, and go to those loyal customers and increase the relationship stickiness or trust, loyalty, to nurture new VIP brand ambassadors from your basically loyal customer base. The goal is you're going to convert, for all of your loyal customers, about 50%, to, the research shows, convert 50% of loyal customers to apostles over time. And I work with clients to identify what their timeframes are to do the conversion and what the specific activities are to gain more invaluable, rewarding customers. So I want to share with you a tremendously destabilizing activity most organizations are practicing in the past year of COVID. They're trying to sell, and they feel pressure of meeting their sales goals. And so they're pushing harder and harder on clients and potential clients. Buy my stuff, because it's manifesting their inherent stress to close the deal with ultimately their potential customers. I want to posit something a little bit foreign to the typical salesperson. Stop selling. Stop it. Cut it out right now. People are not emotionally or prepared to buy from you, especially if they're sensing innate stress on your behalf to close the deal. People want to know that you care about them. They want to see that you've shown that you understand what we've all gone through over the last year and be sensitive to it. In other words, they want you to exhibit empathy and emotional intelligence. And I want you to understand that the selling needs to be subordinate or under the radar. Selling needs to be a transaction or a positive outcome that comes when the individual that you're pursuing sees that you genuinely care about their best interests at heart. And so not only should you, as either the head of a sales team or as a sales executive, but anybody in your organization who's tasked with serving existing clients, communicating with potential clients, anybody in a client retention, client acquisition role should be trained on these emotionally intelligent, non-sales customer generation best practices. Create a policy document of standards of care. I do a lot of this in my practice. Have an understanding of your bigger accounts and how you go broader to touch more individuals who are involved in the purchase process, and also go deeper into those relationships where possible. Pay attention to what your customers are talking about. What are their challenges, their wants, their needs, desires? Understand that. You as an organization, if somebody's on this webinar and you're a senior level executive, understand now more than ever, your sales function should be integrated and completely knowledgeable of and educating marketing as to what your sales organization needs, but also research and development, new product development, customer care. Sales needs to be infused into those functional areas to have the strongest impact on your customer. And then understand that sales is not about buying stuff. It's about the conclusion of a really effective relationship, which means you've touched that potential customer a number of ways based on their personality, their needs, their wants, and the kinds of marketing messaging that they're more and less receptive to. And that means becoming more and more visible, attending the right virtual shows, events, conferences, writing articles, scholarly works, be a published author, get active in blog posts on LinkedIn in the requisite groups that you sell your services to, facilitate roundtables of your maybe top VIP loyal brand ambassador customers, where you facilitate monthly virtual get-togethers of 12 to 15 of your top VIP clients and rotate that on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. The only thing that's limiting your ability to sell is if you try to sell. Stop selling and shift your mindset to more of a relationship cultivation approach. And this is a golden opportunity for us to think about what, again, I asked earlier, what does a relationship with your customer mean? Well, we understand certain truisms that have universal application in your personal life as well as your business life. Think about your client relationship spectrum in 4 stages, kind of akin to a marriage. And so we know that those 4 stages are critically important, although you can skip one or more of them, but this is the construct. Your new potential customer cannot engage you and start a relationship unless they know you're out there. Typically, we call that marketing or brand awareness or recognition that your company, your organization exists. Then that potential new client needs to kick the tires, so to speak, of the proverbial relationship. A trial subscription. Maybe they allow you to provide services on a pro bono basis. Maybe if you're in a consulting world or a professional services firm, you offer a free consult. But that's that second stage, is exploration and trial. The third stage is cha-ching, they make the purchase. There's some kind of contractual sales-based commitment, right? And we know this. The commitment level is where the relationship goes from one-time transaction to maybe a second repeat purchase, to then you going from selling to relationship servicing model, where you're building that relationship with the customer in that commitment level stage. And we know just in America, with 50% of our marriages end in divorce, every relationship with even the best clients will ultimately dissolve or end. And this is the 4-stage customer relationship journey that they have with you. So you want to maximize that relationship. So they're aware of you, and then you want to get them to try what you do, what your firm services they provide, products they make. And so think about it as relationship stickiness. You want to increase the likelihood that they go from trying you to buying you. And expansion, exploration is about cultivating trust, creating norms of consistent relationship. I can't tell you how many organizations screw this up. I'm sorry, but it's just the abject failure of establishing trust and loyalty by communicating effectively. Organizations and individual sales teams go directly to the sale, cha-ching, cha-ching, and they circumvent this expansion phase where you're cultivating the relationship aspect, building trust. They, the potential customer, they have to feel comfortable with you, right? They have to have built up trust in you that what you say is what you're going to do. How do they know that? How have you brought them on board with the buyer-seller process? And so you can hear that I'm talking a lot about relationships because that's the way you need to think about customer engagement, customer satisfaction. Selling is 20th century. Relationship cultivation, especially in the year of a global pandemic, which was 2019, 2020, we need to reset what sales is from a relationship narrative. So commitment is that third stage we talked about. They buy from you the first time, but they could, again, be a mercenary. You want to immediately upon them indicating that they're committed to you, that first purchase is to start to create and cultivate deeper level of trust. They might be satisfied with you the first time, but you want to increase that trust and loyalty to move them up the value chain. That will push off farther into time, ultimately when they leave you at the end of the relationship. And dissolution is, as I said previously, that's the effective end of the relationship. And so you ask yourself, if you're a truly empathetic organization, what happened? We're sorry to see you go, but we want to understand, was it us or was it you? It's akin to that proverbial relationship comment, it's not you, it's me. So why not institutionalize a win-back program? We want you back. We were so sorry to see you leave. Maybe we weren't able to or didn't serve your needs at the time, or you couldn't benefit from our services. But if you get to a stage where you find yourself in need of the kind of services we offer, just understand this. We will embrace you and welcome you back with open arms. As opposed to understanding, was it an abject failure on your part? In which case, a lot of organizations don't want to deal with this. They say, okay, the customer left. It's part of doing business, operationally speaking. You know what? We'll move on and get new customers. No, you won't. Not the same, because customers who leave you, who have been valuable, loyal to you, or brand ambassadors, they're significantly more valuable in terms of aggregate customer lifetime value than hamster on the wheel and going back to new customer acquisition mode. So you really want to create systemic process around understanding why customers leave. What's at the heart of that? What could you do differently better? And what perhaps wasn't ideal from their perspective? There's value in the relationship. So why do I talk a lot about, why do I train and coach salespeople to focus on the existing relationships you have and not be that hamster on the wheel, new client acquisition, new client acquisition? Well, hold on. We know existing clients are much more valuable. You've cultivated monetary value by cultivating that relationship. So we know that it costs, from an operational perspective, less to service existing customers than to go out and spend money through your marketing endeavors to find new clients. We know additionally that customers who are loyal to you, understand what you do, your competitive advantage, your unique value proposition, they'll pay a higher premium or a markup for what you make or what you do. We also know that the stronger the relationship you've cultivated with your client means that they're willing to reveal things to you about themselves that'll ultimately enable you to better serve that relationship and therefore monetize or profit from the relationship. Aha, cha-ching, there's the monetary reward that comes from nurturing that relationship. So I want you to think about your customer lifetime value. Right? We know that the Vilfredo-Pareto rule, the 80-20 rule, that a majority of your revenue is going to come from a relatively small number of customers in your your contact management system, your client relationship management database. We know this. So however you do it, you need to figure out how an average customer generates lifetime value for you. And one of the most simplistic ways to start thinking about this is RFVP as kind of a low-level commitment way of framing the value. So for every customer in your database, think about monetizing or quantifying the value of the relationship, because that's going to ultimately dictate how you migrate them up the value chain and the extent to which you have direct versus indirect and how frequent or infrequent contact with them. Because we all know a cost associated with serving clients. So RFVP, recency, when was the last time they bought from you? Frequency, how often do they pay for your services or buy your products? V is volume. On an average per sale transactional basis, what's the value? And profit. How much does it cost to service this account? So you may have a client who buys from you these huge, huge products infrequently, but they're large dollar value. and they don't ask for a lot in terms of a service model. So the profit is relatively lucrative. Conversely, you may have a client who buys a lot of little stuff, really, really little stuff, and they're constantly a bee in your bonnet. They're contentious, they're complaining, they're calling, they're demanding service. Well, that's almost a disincentive to maintain that relationship, where you want to think about how to automate that so that it doesn't require the higher cost of more technical, advanced, skilled sales team members engaging with that client who's constantly asking low-level, low-threshold inquiries. And that's RFEP as a general principle for coming up with a value that you can apply to each of your customers in your database. And so remember, customer lifetime value needs to be measured. Why? Because I'm going to explain why shortly. But you need to have some framework for quantifying the value of each customer. And so here we go. I talked to you about recency, frequency, volume, and profit, but understand you want to prioritize your customers because this will tell you where they fall in descending order in those three buckets or categories of type of customer, from most to least valuable, right? So we'll go VIP brand ambassador to loyal to mercenary. And you want to understand where your customers fit, because you then want to structure marketing communications and client engagement programs, client reward programs, loyalty programs are built around these hierarchies. You just have to set the thresholds by measuring them. And this is one strategy that I think is the most simplistic, but I love it because it visually depicts how you do this, right? So if you think about all your customers, like literally you have the names of the customers and you have their title and the organization that they work for. And then as you run across the columns or database fields that you're populating in, let's say, a Salesforce or a Zoom or so, some kind of Zoho, some kind of contact management system, but you have a measurable numeric value assigned to each touch point in that customer lifetime journey with you. Maybe they signed up for your email newsletter, or they've accepted your invitation to connect on LinkedIn, or you've had a conversation with them on the phone, or you met with them face to face. You can see as you go across the columns left to right, I've just assigned a number so that for each of those customers, as you total, going left to right across the columns, all the way on the right-hand side, you've totaled up the points or value of all those touch points for each of those individuals in each of your client organizations. And I understand that that's somewhat simplistic, but this is, I think, the best way to demonstrate what are the relationship touch points, or what we call deposits. You've deposited money into the proverbial bank of that account, that client, from a relationship cultivation standpoint. Think about the hunter versus the farmer. Think about the classic explanation of the different types of personality or style of salesperson. The hunter's the rainmaker. They go out, they go for the kill. They love the thrill of the hunt. They love landing the big, client and then running away to the next one. And so the hunter is always looking to shoot, to kill, to bring home, to land. That's not sales in the 21st century in a year of a global pandemic. Instead, I want you to think about the farmer and all of these numbers, all of these points ascribed to the farmer planting the seeds of a highly cultivated crop of incredibly valuable, trusting, loyal customers. So you're planting the seeds, and each of these touch points along the journey of the relationship with your customer is planting seeds that will ultimately crop up to be cultivated in a harvest that reaps significant monetary return. And I want you to think about this a different way. What we're really talking about, what you get out of monetarily or financially, what you get out of the client relationship is what you invest into the relationship, which matters. So facilitate introductions for that potential customer. Share relevant industry research, articles, information. Invite them to events that you're hosting, or tell them about upcoming conferences. Start your own group with these kinds of really valuable customers or potential customers. Be indispensable in your relationship. So understand this. Every customer who does business with you faces a significant amount of risk when he, they hire you. Look at it. Look at the list. From a consumer perspective, from a customer vantage point, they have a ton of risk. Your job is to alleviate the risk from their perspective. You need to make it perfectly clear by cultivating a relationship that your products will perform up to task to avoid functional risk, financial risk. Is your product or service worth their customers' financial investment? At a minimum, your product, let's say the Audi 5000S, for example, should function in such a way that doesn't kill or hurt your customers. There should not be a negative social stigma ascribed to that customer giving you their business through maybe your company having bad PR, not very goodwill. Psychological risk, it's straightforward, and time risk. See, understand this. And this is a big one my sales executives, my sales teams don't seem to understand. You're out there hunting that next client. Your client is investing time to consider you versus the acceptable alternatives to you. Believe it or not, they're out there, and your potential customers are investing time. So when they say, I choose you, that's a massive compliment, but it also means you're the culmination of their decision-making process. Don't make them regret it. So my point being, from a customer acquisition, customer retention perspective, customer relationships are about moving customers up a value chain for sure, but it also requires different skill sets of you or your team at different stages. So here they are, the 4 stages of relationship. The first is a pure marketing and a marketing activity. And I spent 25 years in marketing before I went out into consulting. So the first is, how do you go from a prospect, somebody who has the financial wherewithal and the need for your products or services, how do you pre-qualify that broad universe and then go after that set of highly pre-qualified leads and you sell to them the first time? Well, that second skill is the sale. Anybody can sell. Anybody can sell. If you sell what you offer to 100 people who need it, you may get 1 or 2 clients. Anybody can sell. That's the second skill. That's not what today's about. This webinar is about. Oh, no. It's getting them to buy from you the second and the third time, to go from mercenary to somewhat loyal. That's where service comes in. That's where service is a true competitive advantage. And organizations build it into their informal culture, and they make it part of not just their sales process, but serving customers is a mantra that's trained out, like I'd say Nordstrom does or Zappos. They do it inherently through every aspect of their DNA of their organizational enterprise: customer care, product development, sales, finance, operations. Every functional area of the organization is built around client engagement service. So that third level of relationship nirvana is a service model. And that ultimately leads you up to the 4th stage, which is relationship cultivation, to gain and keep those highly lucrative customers. And so this requires something most salespeople aren't hardwired to think about, but need to in the 21st century. It's what's behind the customer's motivation. And we're going to get all Freudian or psychological right now. There are 5 levels of humanistic need. This is beautiful across Eastern or Western cultures, across any kind of societal construct, whether you're an introvert, extrovert, any kind of behavioral characteristics at play. There are 5 elemental needs every human possesses, and your ability to dive down all 5 levels will have the greatest direct impact on your ability to sell effectively. So let's talk this through. The first is, if you're in the nature of fact-finding, or you're having that initial consultation, you're talking to a potential customer and you ask them what their challenges are or what their needs are. They will tell you. Most salespeople stink at this, and they'll say, okay, let me send you an RFP, or let me kind of offer you a set of solutions based on what you've told me. That's an abject fail. Because what really is required is an understanding that most people don't know what they want, don't really understand what they need, and they don't know how to articulate it. So from them telling you requires you having empathy and active listening and everything that comes with that, from the soft skills of professional development construct, to say, hold on a second, I just want to make sure I understand what you're telling me is actually what you need. So there's a level of them translating to you to get to what they told you, which is the first level of need and very superficial, to what they really meant. Now, most sales professionals stop there, and that's a shame because that is the visible part of the iceberg that the Titanic runs right into. Invariably, stopping at that level of customer engagement gets your organization into trouble with customers over time. What you need to do is submerge like the U-boat relationship cultivator you are and go beneath the visible waterline level to understand for whatever that customer told you or potential customer told you they needed or they articulated, there's a whole bunch of stuff they've not told you. How could they? You just started the relationship. So as soon as you do that first sale and they're a mercenary, you dive deep into understanding the other things that come from the relationship. And what this is called is shortening the learning curve of understanding all the other things that they've not had an opportunity to share with you, but you'll both mutually derive benefit from you having them articulate. So that's that third level of the unstated needs, the things that they haven't told you or shared with you yet. And that gets you to, by understanding that and then delivering on that, it takes you to the fourth deepest level of humanistic need, which is, you'll know when you get there in the relationships, because this is what it sounds like. Wow, you would do that for me? That's a delight need. They weren't expecting it from you. They probably haven't gotten it ever before. But your ability to deliver on that is driving you from having them be loyal to you to have them be incredibly engaged with and trusting and connected to you, which maximizes, if you have to think about it from a narcissistic, what's in it for me construct, it maximizes the relationship engagement. But even those, wow, Ethan, you would do that for me? Yeah, absolutely. But let me tell you where we really can go in this relationship. And then so even deeper down of that fourth level of delight need are the things that over time, as you build out the relationship and you really invest in terms of empathy and emotional intelligence and all the other psychological relationship cultivation strategies you employ, that'll get them to reveal things to you that they have not or would not otherwise reveal to themselves. And that's what's called the secret need. And it's unfortunate that Saturn, the car company, failed and went out of business because of some market and economic considerations and leadership team issues. Saturn, if you think about a company, go research Saturn and what they were built on as a car company. So that's that fifth deepest level of humanistic need called the secret need. And so, having said that, unmet needs are what customers need you to focus on. And so what you want to do as soon as you start to have them transactionally purchase from you that first time and then the second time is you're always understanding that you need to, if you want to cultivate relationship stickiness and push out that time frame before the relationship dissolves and maximize that commitment to you, to each other, is to understand the needs that that customer is not having met. So what are some of those customers, not just VIP brand ambassadors, but they're out there. They're the Teslas of the world. They are so visionary in scope. They're Richard Branson kind of clients. They're what we call lead users. If you're going to do a set of new service offerings or new product offerings and you want to do some external beta testing or minimal viable product ideation or new product offering creation, go to your lead user customers, the ones who are already visionary and out there and willing to take risks and willing to engage with you at that nebulous, undefined gray area of service modeling. And I've talked a lot about relationships in our time together today, and I just want to highlight something that I've mentioned a few times, but it's the 800-pound gorilla in the sales room. It's empathy. And so what it is the awareness of the feelings and the emotions of other people. And it's a central construct of emotional intelligence, which I do a lot of training on as well. But it's at its most elemental, it's the link between you as somebody in a client relationship service role and your clients. It's you being able to not just sympathize, which is have an understanding of their feelings and their pain. It's empathy is I can have an appreciation of it and try and solve it in you because I know what it must feel like, or I think I know what it must feel like in me. And so that's why it extends sympathy way, way down the road. Sympathy is just, I think I know what you're feeling now. I may have felt it before. To empathy is, I care enough about you that I'm going to try to solve it because I understand the detrimental impacts to you. So express it. Express empathy. Communicate it, convey it with your client relationships. So first of all, one of the things, just strike it from your vocabulary. I understand. Don't say to you, you understand somebody else's pain, even if you think you might, because they, from their perspective, have issues that are unique only to themselves. So don't say you understand. Also speak in human tone, speak in a conversational tone. Don't use acronyms. Stop the robot auto script sales mumbo jumbo. Don't interrupt. And if you're going to listen, we know that active listening is one of the hardest things that you can do, which is why God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. And you can also divulge painful experiences from your own past as a way to create a bridge of relationship connection. So that's emotional intelligence and empathy, much more so than just sympathy. So we are all united by a single desire to be valued by somebody else. And that manifests itself in every relationship you bring to bear with your coworkers and your peers, especially those of you in your organization who are tasked with serving masters, serving clients, serving community stakeholders. So we're all united by a single desire to be valued by other people. So empathy, the construct of that leads to resolving customer frustration, anger with you and your organization. It reduces the likelihood that your clients, even the profitable ones, God forbid the profitable ones, will leave you. It will tend to reduce the impact of or reduce the negative goodwill or the bad press because you're empathetic to your groups of stakeholders. If you have negative reviews from customers or the media, your empathetic behavior towards other will mitigate or reduce the negative impact of that. Also, engaging your customers with more empathy will make them feel more valued, especially important to those highly valuable relationships. And at the end of the day, what today's webinar about is building stronger relationships. That's what this all accomplishes. Customer wants, needs, desire. So according to some research, there's a tremendous, tremendous divide that exists between what a customer says they want from the organizations who serve them and what they say they're being currently treated with. So look at this research from CCMC. So customers say they want to be treated with civility and respect and dignity. 94% want it, 35% say they receive it. They want to be assured their problem will not be repeated. 84% want that, 21% are saying they receive it. Have that sales representative empathize with me, the customer. 83% want, 23% receive. They want, the customer does, the organization that does them wrong or they perceive to do them wrong to apologize. Who doesn't? 76% say they want it, 32% say they receive it. Ladies and gentlemen, Houston, we have a problem here. There is a tremendous disconnect that's going on between the kind of service that organizations are delivering to their customers and the kind of service customers want, need, expect. And so, look, I mean, some more kind of standard truisms of what customers want from organizations who service them. I want to be spoken to not as if you're reading off a script, but we're having a conversation. 76% want, 76% want it, 32% receive it. I want you to say thank you for my trusting you and giving you my business. 80% of customers say they want that, only 33% say they're receiving it. So going back a little bit farther, only 8% of customers, 8% of companies that were surveyed in this survey delivered exceptional customer experience. But when the organizations were asked to rate themselves and how effectively they delivered customer service, 80% said they thought they delivered superior experiences to their customers. This is truly outrageous. And I wish I could say it was just unbelievable, but I see it in my consulting practice day in, day out. And it's because organizations have affected blind spots. So I want you to think about your customers in terms of you having a partnership with them. Learn what their challenges are, their fears, what keeps them up at night. Go on sales calls with them. Sit in on their weekly or monthly town halls or their sales meetings or their executive leadership team meetings. Remember, this is about forging a deeper relationship built on trust and loyalty, which the word for that is a true partnership. Have you ever sat through your most valuable customers' new hire orientations? Why not? Why not? I guarantee you, none of your competitors will do that, which is one manifest destiny way to gain true lasting loyalty from your customer by doing something none of your other potential competitors would do, which therefore creates relationship stickiness and commitment. It's your Seth Godin purple cow, what distinguishes you as your personal brand statement or value construct. Learn what it's like to actually work in your top clients' organizations, the difference between their formal culture, which is what they want you to believe it's like to work there, and the informal culture is what it actually feels like for its employees to work there. Learn that, understand it. And why are most sales professionals and most sales teams incapable of achieving true customer related empathy? In my anecdotal observation, coaching over 500 organizations and going on 12 years, there's a lack of emotional quotient or emotional intelligence. Individuals who go into sales aren't hardwired that way. Also, there's so much stress, health and wellness issues of living and surviving in a global pandemic called COVID, and trying to figure out and carve out work-life balance and not seeing family and being stuck and trapped at home. That's created some inherent issues, which is why I'm offering this webinar today on stop selling, start thinking about relationships. Salespeople and individuals, for the most part, are lacking in empathy. And some employees who are on the front line, customer service employees, truly have very little to no meaningful ability to resolve customer issues that benefit the customer, because they're transactional employees, per hour employees who just are fielding phone calls or responding to text or emails. They're not empowered to solve customer pain. So here's some things you can do to resolve customer pain, just right out of the gate. I see you've been with us for however many years. That's a long time. We value your commitment. I appreciate the patience you're showing us. I take ownership of resolving it. Thank you for saying so positive. I just want to tell you again, Ethan, that your business means a lot to us. I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. So this is frontline staff, 10 activities they can do. 6, if I were in your position, I'd feel the same way. You know what? What you're saying makes sense. That would frustrate me too. I would be asking the same questions you are, and you're totally right. I'd come to the same conclusion. This is a way of disarming frustrated customers. So it's about being a problem solver. That's what relationship cultivation is about. So I want to thank you for attending today's webinar. If you have any questions about what you've heard, or maybe some other aspects of client engagement, emotional intelligence, maximizing your client profitability, let me know if you'd like to have a one-on-one consultation, and also let me know if you lead a sales team and you want to empower your people. Let me know if you'd like my leadership ebook, or we can talk about sales executive leadership training. Having said that, I know how valuable your time is. I want to say thank you for committing to attend today's webinar. And if you'd like to follow up with me, the best way is to send me an email, ethan@thechasengroup.com. Give me a holler on my cell phone, and check out the other videos that I offer on sales success and professional development on my YouTube or on my website. So again, thank you for your time, and I wish you the best in your professional pursuits. Happy selling, and remember, it's not sales, it's relationship cultivation. Thank you.